Welcome to Ecumenical Matters, the Father Ted podcast. I'm your host, James, and today we're looking at Season 1, Episode 1, Good Luck, Father Ted. So I'm here with Vince, who's hosts the Flimosh channel on Beam.pro. That's a video game channel. How have you known Father Ted? Have you watched it when you were young? Did you see it when it was on TV? Or
Yeah, I watched it on TV when I was a lot younger. Obviously, as it was airing, so...
When it was on TV?
Yeah, when it was actually on TV. It wasn't reruns, just every episode as it came on.
And, were many people watching this? Were people coming into school the next day and you know, saying their best bits and stuff? Because that's what it was like for me in my school.
I didn't have any friends.
You didn't have any friends?
No.
Well, what about the internet? Did you not have friends on the internet?
No, not back then.
Not back then.
We're in Ireland.
Yeah. So
Didn't really have internet. It wasn't easily accessed.
You're technologically advanced compared to everyone else. You must have found a forum. You should have started a forum.
Probably
Maybe that was your way of doing it.
That's why I'm here today, talk about it.
To talk about it?
Yeah,
So
you've for about lost childhood.
You've held this in for 21 years then, Vince. So hopefully it's all about to just come out in a big stream of consciousness now. Excellent, excellent. Well, 21 years actually almost to the day, because the first episode was on the 21st of April in 1995. And to give you an idea of what was going on at the time, the films that were out in the cinema at the time was Michael Bay's Bad Boys. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, favourite.
Your favourite?
Well, it's a favourite of mine.
Well, it's Michael Bay, Is that when it was acceptable?
It's more just Will Smith.
Will Smith, and what about
It's
Martin
just the
Lawrence?
first instance. No, who cares about him?
No
Big
one likes
Mama.
him. And Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro were in a very early DiCaprio film called The Basketball Diaries. I'm sure they were bitching about Martin Scorsese when they're on the set and stuff. And then Ice Cube and Chris Tucker went for a smoke in Friday. Do you remember that film?
Brilliant film.
I've never actually seen it.
Brilliant.
But...
Watch him.
And in music, do you want to have a guess what was number one at the time?
It's probably Oasis, was it?
It wasn't actually. It was Take That and Boyzone in Ireland were the number one singles.
Oh, my favourites.
And Wet 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 was top of the album charts. But there you go. So in the midst of all this, Father Ted burst onto our screens on a Friday night on Channel 4. And the first thing, obviously, you have to talk about on Father Ted is the theme tune. Do you know much about it? It was by the Divine Comedy.
Yeah, Divine Comedy.
Yeah, it was actually one of a number of tracks that Neil Hannon had submitted for to Graham Linehan, the producers. And surprisingly, it wasn't actually the one that they wanted to go for. But one of the different producer told them, look, this is the tune, this is the one you want. This sets up the scene perfectly. So Graham Linehan went with it. It obviously fits it perfectly, like it
does. Yeah, it definitely fits with the. I don't know how to describe it. It definitely fits with like the theme of the show and stuff.
Yeah, just the bleakness and the
dreariness
of it. Yeah, exactly. So those are the first lines of Father Ted, and they're not too spectacular or anything. It's just two priests discussing when to do mass, but it introduces the characters immediately. Like it's Ted and Jack.
Sort of sets them up quite well because Ted obviously seems more serious.
Yeah.
Whereas Jack is very clearly
does not give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Just does not care at all.
And the looks he throws to Ted, he hasn't even said a word yet. He hasn't even made a noise yet.
Yeah.
And just the looks he throws to him with the cigarette, with the smoke in his mouth, just absolute pure evil.
Yeah.
But that sets us up, and yeah, I mean, as I said, it's pretty inauspicious. And in fact, most of the episode, it is pretty inauspicious about the characters. It seems to introduce the island more than the characters.
Well, I feel like in the first few minutes of it, it does a great job of setting up the three major characters you're going to see throughout it. Like there's no messing about it. You obviously know right away Ted's quite serious. Jack's obviously lazy and an alcoholic, and then Dougal hasn't shown up yet, but you realise very quickly he's a bit of a man-child.
Yes, yeah.
So it very quickly just set them up, and you know how they're going to be throughout.
Well, exactly. I mean, Dougal comes in and he's got a full face of shaving foam everywhere. And Ted tries to tell him that there's shaving foam on your face, and then when he sees in the mirror that he's pretty much caked in this, he looks like he's had a pie thrown in his face by this point. He says, "I didn't even try to shave this morning." So.
Yeah, he doesn't even know how it got there.
Yeah, Dougal comes in and he's immediately, as you say, like a man-child. I think he got a much worse treatment in the first episode than maybe he did in later episodes, because he does just seem like an absolute dimwit, reprehensibly dim-witted, like in the first episode. Yeah,
they seem to go a bit too far with it.
Yeah, and I think they reined it back later on, but sure, we'll have a look at that as we get to the later episodes. But I'll play you another wee clip now. Dougal has heard about a fun fair coming up, and there's one of the attractions he's particularly looking forward to. So that's Dougal's definition of a spider baby. Ted has to teach him that, sometimes he mixes up reality and his dreams.
Yeah.
And he helpfully creates a little diagram for him. Do you remember the diagram?
Yeah, it's basically a head and it says reality outside it and dreams inside his head.
Inside his head. It actually looks like the TED Talks logo, I think. Do you know TED Talks on YouTube? The TED ads?
No.
Well, they've got a logo and it looks very like the diagram. I think they stole it. I think Graham Linehan should be having a word with Ted about it.
Maybe.
They even stole the name of the character.
Yeah, comes full circle though.
Exactly. Not an original idea in those TED Ed videos at all.
Not an original bone in their body.
Exactly. Terrible. Jack didn't like what was on TV, and he summarily throws a whiskey bottle at it, as you do. I mean, the amount of times I've been flicking through channels and just wishing I had a whiskey bottle to hand.
I can relate to that with everything Teresa watches on TV.
Oh, what kind of stuff did you watch?
Geordie Shore.
Yeah, that would I would definitely reach for the whiskey bottle there. Make sure it was empty first, because...
Oh yeah. Priorities.
Exactly.
Not going to waste good alcohol.
Yeah. If you want to put a bit of water into it after the bottle's empty, to give it a bit of extra weight, so it flies through the air better, and then obviously it'll destroy more of the TV as well, like maybe even some surrounding electronics.
Do as much damage as possible.
Exactly. And then you know that you never have to put on Geordie Shore again.
Well, no, you have to replace your TV and your bottle of whiskey if you wasted whiskey.
We've already dealt with the whiskey. We're not wasting whiskey.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
No, that's grand. So in the plot then, a producer from Telly Erin, which is obviously a thinly disguised radio, or RTE, which is Radio Telefish Erin, Faith of Our Fathers, phones Parochial House asking to interview Ted. So basically, there was these programmes on RTE in the 90s, and they were just twee little documentaries about little tiny aspects of Irish life. So I can fully imagine Faith of Our Fathers actually being a real TV show or something very similar on at the time.
Yeah.
And I can sort of imagine what it would have been like. Like, there was loads of these little shows on, but Ted doesn't want anyone other priests involved. He just, obviously Jack and Dougal are a bit of an embarrassment to him.
Just wants all the glory to himself. Exactly,
and Ted does have ideas about his station. I think he feels a bit trapped on the island.
Yeah.
So this is a very good way of getting him out. And one of the things that the episode was good for, as I said, was introducing the island. So this is a clip of Ted describing to the producer how you can get to Craggy Island. So basically, Craggy Island is a radioactive wasting dump.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a cesspit, really. It doesn't sound very nice at all.
I think they have actually they mentioned later on in the episode that it, just off the west coast, that you have to go off the coast of Galway, so it sort of places it, but you know,
it never really revealed where it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that was the whole point, was that, you know, it's this sort of godforsaken place that doesn't actually exist. It's like this lost city of Atlantis. That
almost like nobody wants associated with it.
Exactly, with a massive...
And the people on it can't get off it, is almost how it seems.
Exactly. And the only people who got onto it were obviously the victims of some shipwreck or something on the opening credits. So... So the actual location is in County Clare, and the Parochial House, so this is according to Wikipedia, now I can't get a verification on this, but the Parochial House is McCormick's at Glenquin on the Boston Road from Kilnaboy. So it's very very localised version of Wikipedia there. We have somebody from Clare in the room, if she can be heard on the mic. Can't you tell us where Kilnaboy is?
I don't know where Kilnaboy is, but I can confirm that the Parochial House is actually in County Clare. You always see, like when you scroll through your news feed, people who are visiting County Clare, they always stop outside the house and have their photos taken, and it's exactly as it appears in the programme. So it's got like the big gates. There is some kind of religious statue of the Virgin Mary outside.
So that's part of it as well.
Walls. It's exactly as it appears in the show.
So there you go, untouched by history. There you go, an artifact of Irish life, preserved. Ted admonishes Dougal for waking Jack up by putting the TV on. Jack likes to sleep, and he likes to enjoy his retirement naps. So that was the first sort of paedophile joke in Father Ted. So they didn't actually avoid it.
No, probably a good thing as well anyway, because they still did it kind of subtly.
They did, yeah.
They didn't just outright go, he's a pedo.
It's more of a sort of creepy sort of old man vibe rather than just straight up put it in there. Since Father Ted aired, obviously, there has been the major investigations across Ireland about the child abuse in the church. Graham Linehan posted on Twitter the day the final report was published that if he ever had to bake it again, he don't think he could. He couldn't go back to that sort of loving sort of portrayal of the priest in such a loving way when he knows that all this was going on.
I think, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, because the good thing they did in that show is that, okay, they made one pedo joke there. They don't really make them very often. The main thing they focus on is that this is three very flawed individuals who are meant to be priests.
Yeah.
And they're not the kind of people you expect to be priests.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
And if he had to do it nowadays, it would probably just be, if anybody did it nowadays, it would probably just be pedo joke after pedo joke.
You don't they hit too much on the head if you just kept at it, like. But they did address it from the very start, so
yeah.
And it wasn't actually as known an issue back then. Like that might have been more an inside wink to like people who recognised priests like that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is about the three priests, like having grown up like raised a Catholic down in Tyrone there, I mean, they are actually recognisable. You can recognise what type of priest they're taking off, in that there is quite a lot of sort of priests that are a bit slow, like Dougal. Obviously, it's exaggerated for comic value.
Of course.
There were the old priests who had nothing else to do but drink all day and probably had their roving eyes as well. And then Ted, obviously, as you said, he was sort of the sensible one. To
a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. Like,
he's a bit of an egomaniac.
Exactly. He has his character flaws, like, and he clearly likes a bit of the wedge, like. But you can't, like, there was priests like that, and you could recognize them. And I think that's immediately why it became so popular, is because people could see these characters in their own parishes and stuff. Yeah. But that wasn't actually the first instance of priestly abuse that was brought up. It was actually Dougal. Went on a long diatribe about riding an old man on his back for an hour.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So actually the most sinister character in this is actually Dougal.
Yeah. He's riding says he went horse riding, wasn't it? And it turned out it was a 90-year-old man.
Exactly, yeah.
Riding on his back for an hour, lashing him with the whip.
With the whip, yeah.
Sounds like a good night.
Dougal shows a bit of ambition here that maybe we didn't know about him before. He's clearly got eyes for fame himself, not just Ted. So when the broken TV is taken apart, he actually takes the screen and pretends that he's on top of the pops. But I don't think Jack necessarily approves of his ambition. How did that gobshite get in the television?
It's probably one of the few spoken lines he actually has in that episode.
It is actually, he doesn't actually speak very much, but Jack doesn't actually speak that much.
Yeah,
in fact, that's actually probably almost one of the longest lines he would have throughout the series. Like,
yeah, normally just curses.
Exactly, yeah, it's just rambling, just sort of bark that he just throws out there. How did that gobshite get in the television? Surely you could appropriate that to quite a lot of people who are currently on television.
Simon Cowell.
Well, exactly, yeah. So if they can get on, why can't Dougal? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dougal was presenting Top of the Pops as well, which, to go back to the paedophile thing again. It's hard to avoid, isn't it?
Forgot all about that.
Well, exactly. I mean, the BBC are actually having a great difficulty. They've got all this great archive footage of old bands and pop groups that maybe nobody else has, but they've just got Jimmy Savile at the start of it, and they can't really use it, so...
Yeah, to be fair, even if he wasn't a paedophile, I wouldn't want to see him on TV.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's another conversation entirely. We get then the introduction of Mrs Doyle. Mrs Doyle doesn't actually get very much to do in this episode, but she's introduced straight away.
She comes in right away, and she sort of, just like everyone else, it sets her character up very well. You know right away she's very pushy and very much just trying to force people to... She likes to serve.
Exactly, yeah.
She's determined to serve people, and she refuses to take no for an answer.
Well, Mrs Doyle is sort of like the absolute epitome of the Irish Mammy. Of just anytime there's guests, it's like there's teas on everywhere, there's sandwiches everywhere, and of course the very first thing she does when she comes in the room is offering everyone else tea. Now Father Ted doesn't want any, so we get the infamous go on.
Yeah,
and that's it's been attributed as her catchphrase, but she only actually says it twice in this episode, and over the course of the series I don't actually think she says it that much.
Not really, but when she does, she says it multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sort of a sort of rattling on, but I think she only actually says the words maybe about 7 or 8 times over the course of the series. I'm actually doing a running count, so we're at 2 at the minute, and as we go on ahead, we'll see how many times she actually says it. And I think that was sort of a wise choice on their part, that they didn't just hammer it home to death.
Yeah,
it wasn't every episode.
Too many shows suffer from to have a recurring joke, and they milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, in every episode when it doesn't actually call for it.
Yeah, even in this, there's a couple of recurring characters who appear in this episode.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute,
yeah, but, even then they don't milk them for all they're worth every episode. They don't show up every time, right?
Exactly. Mrs Doyle was played by Pauline McLynn. She gets character perfect. I mean, you could just imagine she's late 50s, widowed, and spending her life now just looking after 3 priests, like. And there is actually a role in pretty much every parish. There is somebody who does basically the day-to-day running of the priests and making their food and take the collection money and account it and everything, and you know, they're the ones actually doing all the work, and the priests are just sitting there and say a few words at the top of the altar every Sunday. You know, behind every great man.
Occasionally blessing a baby.
And then we go on. Ted interrupts Dougal in one of Dougal's private moments. He's actually singing Tina Turner's "Simply the Best," and it's absolutely brilliant because he's playing his air guitar, and his dedication to his role. He puts the air guitar down onto the mic, onto the guitar stand. He's going to be a rock star. He's going to have his air guitar. He's going to have his air guitar stand as well. He wants to know if Ted has any ambitions to maybe be a bit famous, which of course we know he does. Dougal just comes straight out and asks him. Ted denies it. Dougal just strikes down any hope that Ted might have of making a star out of his Faith of Our Father's appearance.
Just, he doesn't have any filter.
He doesn't. No,
he says what he's thinking, and it just comes out right away, and he doesn't even care.
Exactly, and
he doesn't realise what he's saying.
Exactly, and it's not coming out of any place of malice either. It's like purely innocent observation, which is obviously completely wrong.
Yeah, but it's exactly how he is. Yeah, he's a man child.
Exactly,
just a big child,
and that's why we love him. Ted manages to shut him up by telling him to go to bed, and Dougal says, well, of course, he needs to say my prayers first, but he needs prompting several times when he's trying to say the Our Father.
I really like that about Dougal, because at the start you're kind of like, okay, maybe he just doesn't know the prayer, maybe it's just because he's so stupid he doesn't know, but then you kind of realise it goes on, the whole priesthood thing seems like a big joke to him.
Yes, yeah.
And they touch on that again later.
Yeah, exactly. This is the first sort of clue that Dougal's maybe not fully on board with the whole priesthood thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's still an ordained priest. He still had to do 7 years in the seminary, so...
This is the thing I was wondering about before. It kind of makes you wonder how Dougal got to this point in his life without Ted.
Yeah,
because Ted's always kind of looking out for him, and it's somehow you realise here, how did he get into the priesthood?
Well, I imagine, because like I said, there is the priest you recognise. So basically what would happen in Ireland, you know, back right up until about the 80s, you'd have a big family, and if there's a lot of boys, one of them would sort of be, especially if he was a bit slower, he'd be sort of, okay, that's the priest in the family.
They say that in the next episode.
Yeah, oh, did they? Okay, I haven't watched that ahead.
Say the favourite child becomes a doctor, while the dumb child becomes a priest.
Yes, that's it, yeah. So you can imagine him just, as soon as he came out of school, he was just shepherded off to the seminary where he's having a laugh with the lads, and then 7 years later, he got anointed a parish, which was just happened to be out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So there's an introduction to the twin bedroom as well.
Yeah, I always quite like that. There's very few actual sets.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there's the main living room, there's the bedroom. That's all I can really think of.
There's the bathroom as well, which doesn't happen in this episode. But
yeah, next one it does.
Yeah.
But like other than that, they usually have like one-off sets that maybe appear and stuff. Yeah. But these are the two main sets, really.
But there's no Byrne Erning shenanigans going on here then.
No.
So,
opposite beds.
Well, of course, yeah. There's a house of our Lord.
House of the Lord, yeah. You wouldn't think it with Father Jack in it though.
Well, exactly. But he gets his own room, so.
Yeah. God knows what goes on in there.
So Ted arranges with a TV reporter to be interviewed in the field, which Ted explains isn't actually a field, but merely a place which has fewer rocks than anywhere else in the island. So there we're going back to, they're not actually introducing the characters as much as introducing the setting.
Yeah.
So it is this barren, desolate, isolated place.
I think the setting it's quite good in that it shows everything that Ted hates.
Exactly, yeah.
Ted really obviously doesn't want to be there, so he'd rather be, again,
in the big lights.
Sort of shows clips of him, like dreams that he has, and it sort of shows that he would rather be away from there and maybe famous and having lots of money and partying and stuff.
Exactly.
Or say stuck in this little island that has a field, which isn't really a field, it's just got less rocks.
Less rocks, yeah. Just the least craggy island, part of the island. We're going to take an introduction to, as you said, one of the recurring characters here.
Definitely clip. One of my favourites.
So basically the introduction is visual. You do get a few more lines out of him, but all you need is a visual.
Well.
Yeah, all you need is a visual. It's just Tom sitting there on the wall where he's constantly perched.
That's because I kind of love the image that he is just there.
Yeah.
Constantly, day in, day out, just staring at anybody who comes by.
Exactly, he's the local landmark. I mean, I grew up in a wee town called Fintna, and there's a man there, he was just known in the town as Mickey Man. He would always be at the same point in the town all day, every day. Yeah, it was just like the local landmark. So I think that's what the Tom character was.
One of the things you could work out where you were based on where he was.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, or what time of the day it was, depending on which way he was facing.
It's like a sundial.
Yeah, exactly. Ted's trying to keep this phone conversation secret, and he's hiding behind the circle, or behind the curtain. You told me about coming first full circle and everything. It's just wrecked my head. But Dougal walks past the window, and the instant face of mischief on Dougal, as soon as he sees that he can play a prank, it is absolutely brilliant.
First episode, and they've already got their characters pretty much perfect. You can see some shows where they take a couple of seasons to get the grips of how that character would act and how they would look and what they would do. In this first episode, they've all got it nailed.
Exactly.
Especially Dougal, just his face, you can tell he's up to something, or just whenever he's trying to really think of something, you can really see it in his face and stuff.
Exactly. And brilliantly played by Ardal O'Hanlon, of course.
Yeah.
But as you say, I mean, everything was in place. Like, I was actually surprised to actually see things like Tom was on already. They actually did introduce an awful lot in the first episode. But apparently this wasn't actually supposed to be the first episode. They were actually going to make Down With That Sort of Thing episode, the first one, but this was a better way of introducing it.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably a wise decision as well. Because as I said, you get the idea of the characters.
Where they are.
But it's the location of it that makes it stand out more.
Yeah.
Tom, so Tom's played by a comedian, Pat Short. And surprisingly, as you said, they don't milk every character. He only actually shows up in 4 different episodes over the course of the series.
It's just one of my favourite characters, especially from this episode, just because that first introduction is just absolutely perfect.
Nailed on, yeah.
Like, they kind of say it and you're like, alright, there's a guy starting with a shirt that says I shot Jarrett, and then just cut to him and he's just the weirdest looking individual you could ever imagine.
Exactly. So,
and it only gets weirder when he opens his mouth.
Yeah. As you say, they're not milking the characters, but it's so memorable that, as you say, he's one of your favourite characters.
Yeah.
He's only been in 4 episodes.
Exactly.
It shows like just how good, how well it was written, how well it was observed and everything. So they try to get Jack out for his walk in the cliff. He's got some right hook on him, doesn't he? They have to struggle 3 times to get him on the chair. Yes. And they're using the bottle of Jack as a...
Yeah, that would work for me though.
Well, it would work for me probably as well.
But like, there's the other thing, like, Jack is very deceiving. Because he looks like he just doesn't want to do anything, but when it comes to not doing something, he puts a lot of effort into not doing it.
Well, exactly. He even plays dead at one point.
Yeah.
Just to be a real pain in the arse to not get into that wheelchair. And when they finally do get him on, so Dougal takes him off, and as far as Ted's concerned, he's got rid of them all now, and Mrs Doyle's away doing her thing. So now he's got the coast is clear, and he makes his way to meet the TV crew. There's very odd music for Ted's little getaway.
I was listening to it last night and I thought it was quite cool. It seems like they just took the main theme and they sort of played it a bit differently but sped it up.
Yeah, exactly. And
made it seem like a very rushed.
Exactly. I can't think of any other times when they've penned original music for a specific scene or anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that piece of music gets played again. Like,
what's that? I don't think it's necessarily original.
Well, it's slightly different. It's got more of a Benny Hill vibe to it.
That's what I mean. It's like it's meant to sound very rushed and. Obviously because he's running away.
Well, because he's running away, exactly. So Ted runs into Tom on his way to meet the TV crew. But Ted, I think, prefers that confessions remain confessional. Ted doesn't give a shit.
No, that's what I mean though as well. Like, he just gets so much weirder. As soon as first thing he says to Ted is just, "Killed a man."
Ted father, I killed a man. But the thing is, the next time you see him, when the crew comes back looking for Ted, he's reading a newspaper, and the headline is "Murderous Still on the Loose."
Yes.
So is he just keeping up with keeping abreast of the police intelligence, or
probably?
Well,
he seems like a weirdo, but he seems like he's actually be quite smart in that side of things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing. Like, the show has a bit of something for everyone. You've got like the really vulgar kind of stupid comedy in Jack. You got the dumb comedy in Dougal.
Yeah.
And then you got more sort of subtle and smart comedy in little things such as that newspaper, or even earlier in the episode when the producer is ringing Ted. And he says, "Oh, well, actually, you were the first person on our list." And it just shows you him in the office, and you can just see Ted's name at the bottom of the list.
It's number 13.
Like, they don't directly say it or anything, it's just there.
Yeah.
And if you spot it, then it's another wee joke to get.
Exactly. And the thing is, when they do show little clips of somebody away from the island, like discussing the island, they're always in a very dreary situation themselves. Like, that's a dreary office. Like, you were the first on our list, and he just sort of glances up at the whiteboard. Yeah. And then the other time they show clips of the Vatican, and all they're doing is just lazing around, like, from the back of their seat, just every so often clicking a button on a mouse pad, and that's all they're doing.
It's almost like nobody wants anything to do with that island, and they want any reason not to go there by the looks of things.
Exactly. But Ted's stuck. Well, anyway, so we're talking about Funland and some of the attractions that were there. And as we were saying, there's Spider Baby, which Dougal's already brought up.
Did Spider Baby actually appear?
I was looking for it and I couldn't see it, so maybe Dougal or maybe Ted was right in the first place.
Yeah,
but it is listed on the Wikipedia page as one of the attractions. Among the other ones was freak pointing, which was just pointing at a man in a wheelchair.
We think.
Yeah.
Pointing at somebody.
It's somebody. Well, it's a freak. Yeah.
Is he a freak though?
I don't think he is necessarily, but you know.
Because that could just be really offensive.
Well, it probably was, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there's a few things that have dated the show. It's not not like there's other shows at the time that were much more cringeworthy. Yeah. There was the whirly go-round, which was basically the merry-go-round, but Jack looked like he was having a great time on it.
Wouldn't even call it a merry-go-round.
Well, it went round and round, and Jack looked merry.
It looked more like a platform that just rotated.
Well, exactly.
But there was nothing to keep you secure.
Well, you don't need to be secure. That's the risk. It's the danger.
Yeah, Dougal looked pretty.
Dougal looked happy as well.
He was living on the edge on it.
Exactly. There's the Pond of Terror, and then Goad the Fierce Man, which is going up to a bearded man with only his underwear, who's the top of an A-frame ladder, and going up and running away as soon as he can so he doesn't catch you. The Spinning Cat, the Crane of Death, which we'll come up to later in the episode, the Duck Strartling, and last but not least, the Tunnel of Goats, which again comes up later in the episode. I do want to bring that up again because it was absolutely hilarious when it comes back. At the fair, we do actually meet some of the recurring characters, and these are two very important ones. So let us introduce you to John and Mary. So that's John and Mary O'Leary, and yeah, it was the trope of the couple who were all bed and roses when the priest's around, but as soon as nobody's looking, they're at each other's throats.
Behind closed doors.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And it was played masterfully, and you know, the dynamic between them, again, exaggerated for comic purposes. Mm-hmm. Like, Mary is the verge of stabbing John in the back with a very long kitchen knife. There's a lot of crime going on in Craggy Island.
Yeah, I mean, you got Tom killing people, and then these two abusing each other.
Well, exactly, and attempted murder.
Again, even the recurring characters, it's a testament to the casting and stuff. Everybody is cast so well.
Exactly, yeah.
These two especially, they're just perfect in the way that they do it, and their timing and everything with each other is great, along with the rest of the cast.
The rapport they have, like the first two lines is, "You've got a face on you like a tit," and he goes, "Well, at least that's one pair between us."
Yeah. And even then, even their rapport off each other and stuff, they both work brilliantly together.
Yeah. So the two actors were Patrick Drury and Rynagh O Grady. I haven't actually seen them in much else that I'm aware of. I'm sure they probably have been on stuff, but
I think it's the same with most people in this show. There's even the main cast. The only person I know from anything else is Ardal O'Hanlon when he did My Hero. Frank Kelly, I know he's done things, but I don't know what. I've never seen.
Well, Frank Kelly and Dermot Morgan were both famous before Fatherhead. Like Frank Kelly was a humorist on RTE radio in the 80s.
Yeah. And
then Dermot Morgan was a humorist on just RTE in the early 90s.
Yeah, because he actually did the Father Ted character.
Yeah.
Not beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I mean, I'm sure they have done other stuff, but I just haven't come across it.
God knows what it is.
During the conversation, we do get one of the very few moments where the show is dated a wee bit. John says Ted would be better than Gay Byrne and Terry Wogan on TV. Of course, Terry Wogan is now dearly departed, and Gay Byrne is
dearly.
Well, there was an awful lot of listeners were very upset at his passing.
Yeah.
But Gay Byrne as well is obviously retired for quite some time now. But
who?
Gay Byrne, he was an RTE chat show host. He was, he was considered like one of the best in the business.
Obviously, you're not from Belfast.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing about living in Belfast, when all you could get on your TV was RTE.
You only could get RTE?
Occasionally.
How come?
Because your aerial was a piece of shit, and it didn't work, and all it picked up was RTE, and you had to sit there and listen to those accents. It's so annoying on TV. But especially when all you got is Podge and Rog.
Podge and Rog was great.
Yeah, if you like shit.
See, I can't get RTE at the minute. I was doing my head in because I can't watch some of the stuff I really want to watch. It's only on RTE.
You're the only one. You must be keeping them in business.
Well, yeah.
And possibly. The rest of the stubborn.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about that.
Well, they've got a license fee down there and they have advertising.
You can get RTE.
Not on the TV at the minute. I need to get a better Freeview box or something.
Because he's got a smart TV, not a dumb TV, so he can get all the good channels.
He's trying to be controversial now. So Ted has tried to ensure Dougal and Jack won't be seen on television by arranging Dougal to take a wheelchair-bound Jack for a walk to the cliffs, and is annoyed to find them at Funland. Dougal initially says the cliffs were closed, and then it says They were gone due to erosion.
I love his excuses because it comes back to the man-child thing.
Yeah.
He gets caught out and he tries to think of a new excuse. Like, you remember when you were a kid and your parents would catch you out and you would come up with the dumbest excuse ever and they would call you out on your bullshit. And then you instantly backtrack and be like, I lost it. And that's what Dougal's doing. He's backtracking over every lie he gets called out on. Exactly. And I think he actually goes back to his original lie. That it was
closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dougal has a few home truths that Ted needs to iron out here. But Dougal's little mumbling, wish it wasn't a priest.
Comes back to what we said earlier about how Dougal clearly probably didn't want to be a priest at all.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have a clue about it. Obviously why he doesn't remember the prayers.
Yeah. So I think he's just going along because...
Just going along for the ride because he has to. He's no other option.
Well, he probably doesn't realise there is another option. He's just being swept along in the...
Yeah, because I guess when you come down to one of the most iconic Father Ted episodes later on, it's the milk float.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
And he does try to go down another option there, but
exactly,
that's for another time, really.
So, instead of telling Dougal how seriously Catholicism should be taken, Father Jack runs off and Ted finds him asleep on a bench and sits down with him. The bench, however, is actually the crane of death.
Appropriately named.
Exactly, so called because a young man was killed on it the year before. And you can sort of see why, because it is just a park bench.
It's just a bench on a crane.
Yeah, and just suspended from way up high. In fact,
there's not even like a belt on it or anything. Not for the security.
Well, the fact they were able to actually film that.
Yeah,
it's like there was no safety harness you could see, or
no. Even the people who were riding it at the start, as the camera's panning across, you don't see anything. Securing them or anything below them.
See, that would be a fairground ride I would actually go on. Think of the thrill. See, Vince, the whole point of these things is that you get the thrill from being so close to death, but not really.
I get more thrill from goading the fierce man.
Oh, I see. Because you never know what he might do if he catches you.
Well, he's only wearing like a loincloth, is he not?
Exactly. And he's on the top of a ladder, so he's already got, height advantage.
He's got a height advantage. Yeah. Well, he's just drop on you.
Yeah. Loving the bit of banjo that comes in as well.
Yeah.
At the fairground, that's obviously a pastiche of Deliverance. Have you ever seen that?
I was really young when I seen it. Probably shouldn't have watched it.
Probably shouldn't have watched it.
Probably not, but there was nothing else on TV.
So you just watched
a guy.
A harrowing film.
Yeah. Obviously there's one scene that stands out, which is the guy getting...
He's been forced to imitate a pig while other things are happening to him.
Yeah.
Try not to spoil it. Dougal's encountered the television crew, and because Ted has told them that he's the island's only priest, they assume it's Father Ted. So from his elevated position, Ted sees Dougal being interviewed by the TV crew and is so dismayed that he actually falls off the bench. When you see the actual footage of Dougal getting interviewed, Ted, the bench is in frame.
Yeah.
So they have got snuff footage of Ted falling off that bench. That would be YouTube gold now, like.
But you obviously see like Ted on it sort of panicking and stuff, and then obviously just...
Oh God!
Yeah. And you can just see how much it's hurting him, not just because he's missing out on that opportunity, but because he knows Dougal is going to say something really stupid and make everybody on that island look like a joke.
Well, it's a pretty fair representation, I suppose. But
yeah, well, true.
But there's a great callback to Dougal's diagram, where reality and dreams are swapped over, and then there's added bunnies just because bunnies.
Yeah.
And bunnies, again, will show up later in the series.
All the rabbits in the
exactly.
Place, they're all over Jack and stuff.
Exactly, but we'll talk about that in the future episode. When they come back to the end of the episode, Jack is sitting in his chair. Can you remember what he was drinking? It wasn't actually alcohol this time. Well, maybe...
it wasn't Harpic, was it?
It was Castrol GTX.
Motor oil. It had to be something stupid. It's the episode after he's drinking Harpic. He gets rushed to the hospital with.
Yeah. So the episode ends with a heavily bandaged and splintered Ted, along with Jack, Dougal and Mrs Doyle, watching Dougal's TV interview, in which he expresses doubts about Christianity and organised religion, as well as relating elements of a nonsensical dream, which he is confused with reality. That's the spider baby. So, once again, Jack's position on seeing Dougal on the TV has been rather consistent. So, when he sees the interview, although it does say Father Ted Crilly on the caption, but...
Yeah.
So that's even worse for Ted, I think. That was probably the most damning.
Like, thing to his ego.
Exactly.
Can't think of the word.
Punctured. Yeah. And, everyone will see this around the country, and that'll be their idea of Ted Crilly.
Worse is that he can't even express how he feels about it.
Yeah, exactly, because he's in his bandages. But let's have a listen to this clip then when Jack sees Dougal on TV. I mean, we both agreed that was probably the funniest line in the show.
That, and also Tom's, Ted, I killed a man. That gets me every time, just because he's got no reason for saying that to him.
No, exactly.
Other than that he's a priest and he wants to confess, but I mean, it's just out of nowhere.
Just straight up, first thing he sees when he sees a priest.
Yeah.
I killed a man. But there was a few other classics that we sort of skipped across as well, and as a first episode, it did the job rightly, like, didn't it?
It does everything. It sets up the premise.
Yeah.
It sets up the characters perfectly.
There's plenty of laughs.
And it even introduces recurring characters.
Exactly, yeah. Stuff. Every 30 seconds, you were laughing.
Yeah. And
even though I've seen this about maybe 18 times or something.
Same here, and every time you do end up laughing from it because you notice something that you maybe missed the first time.
Exactly.
And as I said, there's humour to appeal to everyone in it. There's the dumb, the smart, and subtle.
Yeah.
Anything. And the crude.
One of the features I want to bring in is Meet the Creator. Now, this is where we spot Graham Linehan or Arthur Mathews in the episode. Now, they do show up at various times. Basically, when they're... Yeah, well, they come up as playing different characters. Basically, when they need to fill up a scene with just another actor.
Yeah, for one layman.
Yeah, they were probably just saving the budget by just having one of them step in. So, at the end of the episode, over the title credits, Arthur Mathews makes his debut. And he plays the announcer at the Funland, and I'm just going to play this through because it is actually hilarious. So here we go. So a child gets lodged in the tunnel of goats.
And then a goat and a child get lodged together.
And then the nurse also gets lodged.
This is like a chain reaction. It's probably better that it's not shown. A lot of shows would show that.
Yeah, exactly. And
try and show you like the kid and the goat lodged together somehow.
Exactly. I think the funniness in that is the delivery, and apparently that was a character that Arthur Mathews used to play in his own stand-up. I think on a stand-up or maybe on a radio show, but that was the sort of genesis of Fathered Head, was him playing this priest, and it was that delivery. You know, so I'm glad obviously they went with Dermot Morgan because his performance is so much more vibrant than that.
Yeah.
Like, that would be hard to watch for a full half hour.
Yeah.
Never mind for 6 episodes of a first series, like.
No, definitely. There's a lot more charisma to Dermot Morgan.
Exactly. And I mean, he was just born for the role, really. Like, as you say, he had that priest character on RT before he got cast in Fathered Head.
Yeah.
And yeah, like as you said, the casting was amazing. They just got it right straight from the start.
Everyone's perfect and everyone nails their character.
Exactly. And one of the things that I think holds back new comedies is that they don't cast properly. They miscast parts, and for a variety of reasons for that. Like when a show's getting put into production, from the time the script is written to the time it actually makes screen, there's 20 people who have to make decisions on the show.
Even then, a lot of the time, it's person is playing a character that somebody else has written, whereas in the case of this show, he's pretty much playing a character that he wrote.
That he was familiar with already. Yeah. And I think that's what helped it a lot. But just overall, then, your thoughts on the first episode, and are you looking forward to doing this from week to week?
Great first episode. It's one of the few shows where, as I said, I can watch it and it's like, that is genuinely very good first episode. A lot of shows you kind of watch and think, well, you know, I'll try it again the week after. That's the first one I think where a lot of people watched it and they're like, yeah, I'm going to watch this every week. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, the show won a slew of awards, even on its first series. Like it wiped the boards at the British Comedy Awards the next year, and yeah, deservingly so. So that's been it for the first episode of Ecumenical Matters, the Fathered Head podcast. So please join us again next time. We'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 2, Entertaining Father Stone, another absolute gem.
Season 1, Episode 2.
Season 1, Episode 2 even, what did I say?
Season 2, Episode 2.
We'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 2, Entertaining Father Stone.
I'll keep you right.
Yes, and Vince will keep me right just when I misspeak. But see you soon, and bless you.